Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. It's time to go one-on-one with DP. Coming at you live from the Koppel Chevrolet GMC studios. Here is your host, Derek Pearson. Brought to you by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello, everybody. Guess what? It's still me, Rico, filling in for DP here on One-on-One. Jay Foreman joining me for a little bit before he has to head out. Thank you so kindly, good sir, for sticking around.
Yeah, it's all good. We got Barry coming in.
We do have Barry coming in. He's on the line right now, but we get to take care of a little bit of business. One-on-One, sponsored by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Head on down there, South Lincoln, and get yourself some delicious food. Fried chicken, fried catfish, beans. They've got what they got?
Mac
wings,
and cheese,
mac and cheese, collard greens.
Peach cobbler is what they're known for, but it's always
the peach cobbler. I haven't had it yet. It
always sold out.
I've heard it's delicious. Yeah. It's been a while since I've had the cornbread, but I still to this day remember the one time I've had their cornbread.
Yeah, it's really good,
and it's life changing. Yeah. One-on-one, Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Join us on the conversation. If you have any questions for Barry, Honda of Lincoln Hotline, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, and join us on the live video stream, Starter Heyman Jewelers, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, 93.7 The Ticket. Head to any of those, and you can see us live. But without waiting any longer, let's hit this man's music.
Theme music.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash, with a silver hat about his head, and a bristling black mustache. He growls as he storms the country, a villain big and bold. And the trees all shake and quiver and quake as he robs them of their gold. The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
Perfect.
There it is.
Perfect.
There it is.
Welcome in Barry Thompson, Fairfax Football Academy. Barry, how are you, good sir?
Good, getting better. It's great here. I know in the Midwest, and you guys are having a little bit of heat wave. We're just having kind of normal, summer weather. So we're doing really well, real well.
Barry, I want to ask you, we talked a little bit about it in our last segment. And I'm not sure if you saw the Twitter battle between Lamar Jackson and Pollard. What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson as a quarterback from your perspective as a quarterback coach, and then obviously what you see on Sundays or Monday nights or Thursday night football?
Right. So you'll have to – I caught you guys talking a little bit about the beef, so you'll have to catch me up on that. But as far as Lamar, a lot of times we talked about quarterbacks here, and I've always articulated that it's so important, the environment in which they exist or operate in, that what you want them to do is it playing to their strength. And Lamar has been extremely intriguing to me because of the way that they got the Ravens started with him. They just said, essentially, if we're going to take this guy, then we're going to put everything around him. And they redid everything, including in the first couple of years, the backup quarterbacks, which I think were RG3 and then Trace McSorley, right? So they even went and got similar guys that if Lamar was out, they weren't Lamar, but they would be a similar style quarterback. So that was an organizational move. And I do like him. I think because of that ecosystem that's around him, because it plays to his strengths, I just think I'm always intrigued by it. And I think there's a breakout. We've already had breakout seasons, but I think there's a championship season or two in him with those people around him. I mean, the only pieces they're missing, Ozzy's retired, right?
Yeah.
Ozzie Newsome,
Yeah.
who was, putting all that stuff together. But, great ownership, steady. They seem to be able to put a competitive team on the field consistently with their budget. You're losing big people like Ozzie, losing Ray Lewis, losing Ed Reed, and they're still competitive. It kind of reminds me of that Pittsburgh model that seemed to have been so successful for so long. So I like Lamar a lot.
One of the things Marcus Pollard shot off and pretty much started it, that the Twitter battle, was that he was saying even though Lamar Jackson's a good player, he'll never reach his pinnacle because receivers don't want to go to Baltimore and play with him. Essentially saying he's not a good enough quarterback for guys that want to go play with him. Do you believe anything in that?
Well, yeah. No, I mean, look at Brady up in New England. So for however they were working the numbers there, other than Randy Moss, he didn't get a standout receiver, right? And they had a championship run. So it's that comment is kind of it's just something I really wouldn't pay attention to, and I don't know what Pollard's mouthing off about. Here's what we know about pro players: if they have a chance to win, and you're paying them money,
yeah, they're going.
The good ones are going to show up.
Heck, they're going to go where the money's at, even if you go to a bad team.
Yeah.
There's guys that go to Cleveland Browns.
And you have good receiver at a certain point in his career. He's tired of messing around. He may even take a little bit less.
Right.
Don't say it out loud. But if he thinks he's got a good chance to win and go get a ring. So, to me, that goes out. I don't understand why Pollard. I mean, why would he even say that? I guess he said it because we're paying attention, right?
Right. That's what Lamar. Now, Lamar Jackson said he was irrelevant, but from a defense standpoint, Pollard was a decent player. But I want one other thing I want to ask you about Lamar Jackson in the passing game. And I'm not going to compare a passing tree or system, say, to Brady, but let's just say maybe like a Russell Wilson or maybe even Cam Newton. How, from an offense, say you were, advising a coach, say you train Lamar Jackson, a lot, you've seen how he can play. If they're calling you up and say, hey, what routes or what type of scheme should we, from a passing standpoint, should we try to curtail with Lamar? How does that look? Because, it's a little bit of what Nebraska might do this year, or you might expand it a little bit with what Whipple might do, is start taking some stuff from Pittsburgh with Pickett. So how would you, advise a team or a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator to get the most out of Lamar Jackson in the passing game?
Yeah, I think they're off to a good start, which is they have a firm running game there. I mean, they're committed to the run, and they've got personnel there. I think they have to work out with their linemen, which types of linemen that they're going to – because remember when he first came in, they were all big and beefy and they had the 300-pound fullback and – right. And so that kind of played to that. Then as he got into it, the lineman kind of changed a little bit. So it starts up there. But as far as style of play, he's pretty good from the pocket. And so you really look at, certainly for longevity and that type of thing.
Sure.
You're looking more like a Brady model or like a Breeze model for him.
Yeah.
Right. And that type of thing that takes advantage of his intelligence, his decision-making skills, and then you have that ace up your sleeve, which is if he needs to go out. I don't think that you approach him and it's got to be with the run game. It's got to be a little more downfield.
Right.
That combination of, hey, when you look at patterns, you can either choose to read them short to deep or deep to short. And I think he'd be a deep to short guy. So almost in the vein of if you go back with Kurt Warner,
right,
going back in the day, right, he was a deep to short guy,
right.
But anyway,
yeah. I also wanted to ask you, when I watched Lamar later in the season, this happens to everybody though. Maybe accuracy issues, ability to kind of, just being a little bit off, and I know a lot of it has to do with the lack of or missing on receivers with Perriman. Bateman was hurt, from he was killing it in training camp. And I think he got hurt one of the last few weeks of training camp. didn't come back until like I think well into the halfway mark of the season. And I know that affected it. But what are some of the things you might see from Lamar late in the season, playoffs, to where he's missing throws that he usually were making earlier in the season?
Yeah, well, just from a pure, I don't know what's the right word, but just the mechanics that a quarterback throws with is something that needs maintenance on a consistent basis. That will come undone. Now, I'm not saying it's a mechanical issue, but I'm just a separate comment aside. That's just something that if you think of like the best golfers in the world travel with a swing coach.
Right.
You feel me? So by that level, that quarterback has to know his stroke, has to know it well, and it has to know what he needs to do to kind of maintain that consistency of mechanics. So that's just a separate issue. I'm not saying Lamar is mechanically unsound. Now, when you look at the season, at the back end of the season, you're right. These things, you get tired and people get tired. But I'm going to go back to that lineman thing. Like, if I was really looking at those games, how comfortable was he really back there? And then if receivers aren't healthy, because there's times when as a quarterback, you have to throw early.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can't, you got to be committed to the throw, and it's not quite a guess, but it's not the normal time that you would throw a ball. Right. It's not the normal time. Normal time you throw a ball, you got time. Boom, a receiver's getting his break and bang, your footwork matches up. He's getting his break and you're throwing the ball. Right. There are times when he might be approaching his break and you got to throw the ball out there. Now you got to back off some of the velocity to account for he's going to need a little more time to get to the ball, but the space is correct. Now, when you're talking about that type of timing, now is that receiver getting stuck, or does that receiver understand, from a pass protection standpoint, hey, he may be throwing this out a little bit early. So there's a lot that could go into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of
sense. And if you're telling me the regular guys weren't there and we're in the second tier guys, then that's where that stuff can kind of happen.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's more when quarterbacks and receivers talk, well, we just want to make sure we're on the same page and we have time. It's that type of timing.
Right.
That the receiver looks in and goes, oh, okay. And the quarterback goes, okay, he knows I got a problem over here. Right. And they snap something off and they're both there. So he may not have had that later in the game. I'm not making excuses for him. But.
So kind of going back to like the talent that you were talking about, the receivers and the offensive line. I asked Jay this question earlier. How important is it to have just a solid running game when it comes to helping a quarterback?
Well, it's always a running game is always a quarterback's best friend. I mean, it is. They usually attach that adage to a young quarterback. But when you get into that championship part of the season, and you need to be able to run the ball when you want to, and run the ball when you have to. So it doesn't have to be a spectacular game, but those two objectives have to be achievable, in my opinion, if you're going to play championship football. There's times when you want to run the ball, and you have to be able to do it to be champion. And then there's times when you should run the ball, right? And you should be capable of doing it. You look at some high, we always go back a little bit. Schools, it's called, the old school comes before one-on-one, but if you go back in these high flyer quarterbacks, they had success in their career when the run game was matched up with their passing ability. So Peyton, actually the ones come to mind is both Denver, right? Remember John Elway,
right?
Throwing, people's hands and fingers are flying off and couldn't get enough of them. Right. But late in his career, he gets a running back, they get a run game, and he reels off two of them. And then Peyton, he gets the one, but he goes to Denver and he's not flinging the ball all over the place. You got a run game and a defense, and there you go. Right. So the principles of football, guys, it's as excited as we may be by combines, Mahomes arm angles and all that kind of stuff, and we are excited by it. The principles of championship football still really haven't changed. You got to play defense. You got to be able to run the ball. And you got to be able to complete a few passes.
Right. And one thing I wanted to ask you about moving to college here with obviously Nebraska situation, whether there's a quarterback battle or not, that's a coaching decision. But I wanted to just talk about, just say Casey Thompson, how important is it to have, or speak to the importance? I know it's important, to build this continuity from, say, when spring ball got over, all the way through off season, which is summer, into fall camp, your continuity with what, 4 guys at the most, at least 3.
Mhm.
How important is that to his early success in camp, which obviously you'd like to see boil over into the first game against Northwestern Ireland?
Well, let's compare. First of all, let's say that at any point in time with the football team, you have to do what you have to do, right? I mean, we could all sit here and say this should be done, but if you're looking at a group of guys and you assess it's at this level, then you do what you think you need to do. But if we're saying, and you do know the answer to this, Jay, if we're saying, that what's optimal, this is not optimal. And you can tell by looking at another program. The other programs, when they even if there's a sniff of competition, even if there's a guy applying pressure, they'll go so far to the granular level of all the social media stuff that they put out, because I've seen it with my quarterback, is you'll never see the number 2 ever in anything, right? Because they don't want to broadcast anything to the outside world that other than this is the guy.
Right.
I know for a fact one of my quarterbacks at a certain point, they've taken him and put him on another field with another unit, right? So they may rotate players around because he's a solid number 2. I mean, he's a play away, but just to go to that extent,
sure,
right? To say I'm not even, so you can't even compare. Well, number 1 did this and number 2 did this and that. Number 2's on a different field,
right?
And the way that they've chosen to keep number 2 fresh, not putting him with all the 2s,
right?
They're rotating personnel. So he gets work with one, the other guy gets work, with both groups, but they have them on separate fields at some point. So they're not even letting the locker room get involved. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And now I'm going to flip that. Now, how does a guy approach being on that other field at number 2, and what would you advise him from a mindset standpoint or a goal standpoint to get to that, number 1 spot and get to where you can get to the other field?
Now you get behind the curtain.
I mean, but that's what we're here for. I mean, we got about 5 minutes, so you got 300 seconds.
Okay. Here's what I have a couple of guys that are in 2 spots, and they're behind, guys that have done well, and they're the next up guys. I firmly believe that, confident. When they came home, and we had long talk, and we said, okay, what's the plan? Like, what are we doing? And they kind of just basically timed the stuff. I said, no, that's not the way it's going to go. I said, you're looking at the number 1 right now. And I said, there's things that he does not do well. And it's just, that could be anybody. You understand? Not everybody does. So I'm saying, look at the things that he doesn't do well. All right. Those are the things that you have to get better at. And the reason I said that to him, because if you get better at those things, it applies more pressure to him. And by the way, it makes the team better, and it makes you better, and it raises the bar for the next guy coming behind you.
Right.
Now, he's got more things he's got to be good at. So that was a long discussion. That was an analytical discussion. And then when they were home, those are the things that we worked on. And so that's what you can do. That's what you can do. You're not going to be a number 2 in one of these big programs unless you're prepared. Right? There's no shakiness. But if you're the number 2, then that's what you're doing. Looking at the number 1, and you say, what doesn't he do well? What situations does he not perform well? That's where I got to excel, right? Because that's the only thing. You just can't, if it's a coin toss, you can lose a coin toss. So what's going to make you different, right? What's going to make you different? Hey, he doesn't do this well. Let me go work on that. It helps the quarterback, helps the team, raises the standard of the play for the guy behind him.
That's awesome. Barry, one more quick question. From an offensive standpoint, as a quarterback, obviously you played, but just even you coaching and obviously watching quarterbacks. I'm sure you're like me. I watch linebackers. I can watch them sun up to sundown and find something to get excited or be like, man, that was horrible about. But how important is it, especially, let's just take Nebraska's situation or any situation, how important is it to have a number one guy, like a number, like a guy that, say like a Lamb that was at Oklahoma or somebody like that? How important is that?
Well, I mean, shoot.
I mean,
that's everything. I mean,
yeah, right.
To have a security blanket out there is everything, right? To know that there's a guy, whether it's short or long, or whether it's a tight end or run, whatever the security blanket is, it's great to have, right? If you got a receiver that can dictate coverage, a receiver that you can go to in situations, again, whether it's short or long, it can be tight ends are extremely useful. Extremely useful if they're guys that know how to get open and you know how to get the ball to them,
right.
Moving the chain. So that, yes, the security blankets are man. I still have my Wolvie.
Well, I guess what I'm asking, Barry, is like when you're in an offensive scheme, right? It's just
right.
an offense. Right. This is kind of like year one of Whipple's deal. So, I guess until it's proven, we got ideas who the number one, but you can be. What I'm asking you can go over to Ireland in the first 4 games and be, a high-powered offense with guys rotating. Even though you got the top 3 guys that are going to roll out there, but you're still seeing what everybody can do.
Well, let me put it this way: I still go by the principle that the most difficult thing to defend is something that you don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah.
So that allows you, from a coaching standpoint, to choose several different ways to get there. You could have a passing game that kind of dots the ball to different areas of the field, right?
Right.
That's one. What you prefer is you do have a number one that you can move around the field. Or that's what you prefer. You just don't want a number one. He lines up at X all day. I mean,
right.
You'll take him. I'm
Sure.
not going to kick him out. But man, if you give me an X that I could play, line him up a little H, a little Y, a little Z, I can backfield. That becomes an issue. The most difficult thing to defend is something that you're not sure where it's going to be.
Right.
You think about being a linebacker, right? Think about the downhill eyes, and you get into rhythm, and you've got blocking combinations, and when this back is set here and they're in this set, right? You know what's coming,
right?
Right? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're looking at this stuff and you're not quite sure, is that a down block or just a zone block? And by the fact he was that way, he ran this way last time, but last time that joker, he went out of the backfield. Now I got more things to concern myself with, right? Right? Okay. And now all of a sudden you see the back go to the slot and the Y come back here. It's like, well, okay, what's this mean? Right? And I mean, through study, you can get there to know what it means, but it's still not the same comfortable feeling as I got an eye back or a full back. That fullback's going to do 2 things. He's going to lead me to the play, or they're going to try to influence me, and I know how to read the influence. You know what I mean? And I'll still get to the play. So those are the things. Either spreading the ball around, right, moving or passing to different areas of the field, or having a guy that can move to different areas of the field. I think those are the 2 things that become problematic for defense, because you can't defend it all.
We're speaking with
you
Barry.
take away a lot of stuff, but you can't defend it all.
We're speaking with Barry Thompson, Fairfax Football Academy. Jay Foreman's got to get to going. Barry, we're going to head to a break. Jay, thank you for sticking in. This hour, again, is brought to you by Ambition Electric, the Barry Thompson Hour. We will be right back with Barry Thompson and myself here on One on One.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store. You're listening to One on One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
James Enterprise Incorporated, that company that hauls your gravel, rocks, and material for your farm or construction site, says thank you to the people of the healthcare community for putting yourself in the way of danger to save the public. That is what it means to be a hero and to build a beautiful legacy. This message brought to you by James Enterprise Incorporated. For all your hauling of rock, gravel, and materials, call them at 402-432-6740. That's 402-432-6740.
Allo means business. Allo means local business. Allo means big business. Allo means small business. No matter your business, if you need reliable phone and internet connectivity, you need Allo. Local service and same-day dispatch. Free installation. Symmetrical upload and download speeds. If your business relies on communication, rely on Allo. Allo means business. Visit allofiber.com/business.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Now through July 20th, join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $10 a month, and feel spectacular in the judgment-free zone with the most energy you've had since
kindergarten when we had daily naps.
Exactly. And in our clean and spacious clubs with tons of equipment, you'll feel confident. Like after
I've carried in all the groceries in one trip.
More like, wait, that's exactly what it feels like. Join at planetfitness.com or in club. $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry. Deal ends July 20th. See club for details.
2022 is all about staying well. And guess what? There are lots of easy ways to take care of your mental and physical health every day, like eating right and exercising, taking vitamins, drinking water, scheduling those annual doctor's visits, or just resting. That's right, even a quick nap counts. Because let's be honest, these days we could all use a little more wellness in our lives. So stay well, Nebraska. For more ways you can stay healthy, visit staywellnebraska.com.
The Ticket Water Cooler with Jake Bakoven and Nathan Brennan.
Let's take it a step further. If Nebraska wins the division, that means they go to the Big Ten championship. They win the Big Ten championship, that means they go to the playoff. They go to the playoff, now we're cooking with gas. I don't agree with you. I don't know what to tell you. That's ridiculous.
Weekdays from 3 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more. When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it. We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors. Whether they are in the mountains of New Mexico, the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, the ranches of Oklahoma and Texas, the farmlands of Missouri and Arkansas, or the bayous of Louisiana, we are here for our hometowns. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on.
Morning thunderstorms will give way to partly sunny skies and a hot afternoon with a high of 94. South winds could gust over 25 at times. We'll see another slight chance of thunderstorms tonight with a low of 75 and more heat on the way for your Friday. Highs tomorrow around 96. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You know you want that smoky, tangy, sweet, and spicy sauced and tossed Wingstop. But you just brought a haul of groceries home from the store. It's cool. No one expects you to shop and cook in the same day. So let the flavor experts at Wingstop hook you up with mouth-watering wings, crispy tenders and thighs, fries and sides delivered to your door. You can always cook tomorrow. That's why the fridge was invented. Get it delivered at wingstop.com.
Order your Wingstop online at 28th and Superior, 50th and O Street, and 29th and Pine Lake.
We stand on the shoulders of women who came before us.
Women who fought for their own financial futures.
And now it's our turn.
Join us. Visit WeSaySaveIt.org and take control of your financial future by saving for retirement.
A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to One-on-One with DP, brought to you by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Old School One-on-One, everybody. Sponsored by Mary Ellen's. This hour, the Barry Thompson Hour, is brought to you by Ambition Electric. Contact Joe with any of your electrical needs. Joe Davis, Ambition Electric, here for you on the Barry Thompson Hour. Barry, you still here with me?
Still here. I'm impressed that I have an hour named after me. That's kind of cool.
That's how you know you've made it. It's an entire hour just for you.
That's another whole thing, but
yeah, we can get into that later. But So we're talking, quarterback ones and twos and quarterback competitions. And a little earlier this week, Chubba Purdy had the supposed backup for the Huskers came out with a statement talking about how he's ready to roll, he's ready for the competition. But a word that he threw in there that had everybody buzzing is he's hoping for a fair competition to compete for the starting job with Casey Thompson, Logan Smothers, and whoever else he needs to compete with. And to you, what would that word fair mean in the quarterback competition?
When it comes to competing, well, I'm guessing what he means is I hope I get equal reps with the same people and, the same number of opportunities to make mistakes or be successful, same situations. And that's just not reality. What people have to understand about coaches is, as a coach, you're human. You have opinions. You have to plan. You just can't approach a camp or a practice without a plan. You may want to look at something or have a feeling for it, but you better have a plan for how you're going to prosecute that thing. Like I gave you the example before the break of another college, they had a plan as to how they were going to handle their ones and twos, and that was their plan for doing it. But in this situation, and I'll just say something to quarterbacks out there because I run across this a lot. Competitions at the quarterback position are never fair. They're just not. So, you have to understand, if you're the guy competing, you have to understand that it is going to be unfair, that you're not going to get equal reps. That one guy, and maybe it's you, right? And the other guy is looking at, one guy is going to get a little more allowance. It's not going to be exactly the same. It's not something that happens in a vacuum or test tube, right? Mm-hmm. This is real life. And so the better approach, if I'm somebody like Purdy, is kind of like what I said. How am I going to get? You got to understand. You watch film, you lift weights, you do all those things. The guy that you're competing with does those things. He wouldn't be at a Big Ten program if he didn't do those things. So now it becomes, okay, so then how do I become the guy? Well, you got to kind of look in around the edges, and figure out, all right, how am I going to make myself better than that guy? I can't be the same. If you're the same, it's a coin toss, and sometimes it'll land your way, and that guy's happy, and you and your people are over here saying, "Gosh, when's the coach going to put me in?" Or it could be the reverse, right? It lands your way, now the other guy. You never want these things to be a coin toss when you're competing, and you should never. I would recommend that you never approach it as a coin toss. In my area, we're highly transit here. So DMV, there's people that come in and government jobs and military. And so I tell all my quarterbacks, when they come to a session, and there's, 2 or 3 guys, I'll say, "Are you as good as him?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, you better start working to be as good as him." And they look at me because the guy they're competing against isn't that guy. And I said, "If he transfers into your school, will he be the starter?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "Then that's a problem. That's a problem. You're worried about this guy that's next to you. You're trying to be as good as him, when the real issue is you need work as hard as you can to be as good as that guy. If you're as good as that guy, then you don't have to worry about this. So, I'm sorry, you got me excited.
Oh no, you're totally fine. That's exactly what we want. And you're talking about getting good at certain things, and you have quarterbacks, especially if we keep it just Husker centric. You have quarterbacks who have different skill sets. Casey Thompson, kind of the strong arm, sit in the pocket, deliver the pass kind of guy. Chubba Purdy is a little bit of both. He can deliver the pass, but if you need him to run, he can run. He proved that when he was at Florida State, and I think he got one start. I believe it was against NC State. He had a couple passes against a lower level team, but not talking about that one. And then Logan Smothers, who is more of the running type quarterback. How difficult is it for a quarterback with a certain skill set to try to not round peg square hole, but fit into a certain offensive coordinator's wants and needs at the position?
Well, that hopefully all three of them understand that, but even if they have slight different styles, I would imagine what the coordinator wants more than anything else is great decision making, consistent decision making, and the ability to consistently move the chain. We talk about moving the chains because, getting first down is extremely important. It has a multiple leveraging effect against a defense. The ultimate goal is to score, but just moving the chains, not having empty possessions. I don't know what their communication system is, but consistently getting the checks right, consistently making decisions, consistently being on time with the ball. And then at the end of the day, you want a guy who is a little bit of a leader, right? So you have these kind of, these major requirements of the job, right? But then you're looking for the candidate that's a little bit above that, right? And the fact that they're all competing here says to me that not one of the three has satisfied all of those requirements. And so there's room to grow. And I guess back to my earlier point, make sure that you're setting the right standard for yourself. If you're at a level, and there's two other, and not to slight anybody, but you're at a level where you think you need to start because you made fewer mistakes than the other guys have made, that's not the right standard for yourself. The right standard is, I don't make the mistakes. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the right standard. That will get you on the field. I got to get this down. I got to find out what it is I need to learn. What is it I need to do? And sometimes with quarterbacks, and I've counseled some of my college guys, especially early on, I said, go talk to the defensive coordinator. Go talk to him. Get him to explain to you what this is. Get right down to the granular. I said, you're on defense, you use different stances. Your safety is different stance for different coverage. I said, you ought to know that. You ought to know that. You ought to know when they're blitzing, not just that they're coming, but what they're trying to do. What is it that they're trying to take away? Right? So if any of those three are to that point and they can handle themselves on the field, you got to start. But if they're not to that point and they're not able to consistently act on that information, then you got a competition.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And speaking of a competition, and not a team getting it wrong, but maybe looking back and possibly kicking themselves. You have Will Levis, who was the backup at Penn State to Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford is still somehow at Penn State for like his 12th year. Will Levis going into his...
I don't want to. Isn't it amazing how some players, they all come along and they seem like they're out of school forever?
Oh yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild. But Will Levis is going into his second season at Kentucky. He was the backup to Sean Clifford at Penn State, and now is a projected first-round quarterback. How does that happen, Barry?
What's happened? Look, how does Texas Tech not have room for Patrick Mahomes? I mean, not Texas. I mean Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? How does Texas A&M can't figure out how to get Kyler Murray on the field? Right? They had him and who was the other guy? They had 2 5-stars there.
Yeah.
And it just blew. Was it Kyle Allen?
I think it might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's in the pros too, right?
Yeah.
So, right, one's having more success than the other. But Kyle Allen was being played over that. Yeah, human, not good mistakes. And you've had Nebraska quarterbacks leave and get on the field, correct?
True.
Yeah. So look at Joe Burrow. They had a whole lineup of quarterbacks there that were there. Haskins stayed. The kid from Vegas went down to Florida to become a receiver. We haven't heard from him. And Burrows goes to LSU, and he's Joe Burrows now. So you can look at it and say, yes, but maybe those situations kind of created Joe Burrows, or kind of created Kyler Murray. Like, even as talented as they are, they understood that, hey, what I'm doing is not good enough, or I need to take this to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been that the situation created them, rather than Joe Burrows as a future Super Bowl winning quarterback, and at Ohio State they just didn't want to hear any of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's those situations that really create quarterbacks, because they are situations where, if you look back on it, normal people would quit, but they say, "Oh no, I'm going to find a way." Right? And they find a way, and that really makes sense. So I think if you were to go back and be honest with you, those situations probably created them.
Yeah. Yeah, not that. Yeah. They probably wouldn't have been who they are if they hadn't gone to whatever school they ended up going to. Yeah, you probably wouldn't have seen Joe Burrow at all if he would have stayed at Ohio State. I mean, they had a litany of 5 stars,
right? It's possible, but he was lined up at such competition, had to been trying so hard every day, and that when you talk about it, this gets into what as fast as I'm on my grind a couple of years ago. But this is the real grind, where you don't know where or when the light is going to come. You don't know. Your head is down. You're doing everything. You're checking every box that you can possibly check, but you don't know that that's going to lead to anything. But you're committed to it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It is a tough thing to do, and God bless the guys that sit for 3 years, and they have a kind of chance this guy's going to go. But that quarterback position, there's so much competition. You can go through it for 2 years, and especially the way it is now. And that third year, you think you got it, they go to the portal, boom, and you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what they're facing. And a lot of players are facing that. And so, kudos to them. It's these guys that fight their way through that process. Those are the guys that really, that they develop that grit, that determination that this is going to happen. But it is tough. It's not easy. Imagine you went to work every day and you didn't know when your paycheck was coming.
That'd be rough. Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
No, come in. I want you to be loyal. I want you to be professional. Get better. Come on, we're going to do more. You're getting better. I'm giving you more responsibility. Come on, right? We're growing. We're getting better. The company's experiencing success. Come on, keep going. And you don't know when your paycheck's coming.
That'd be a rough look.
Well, I'm just saying. And then, right? And then you decide at one point, hey, this isn't going to happen for me here. I've been here for 3 years and there's no paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get paid. So now you go to a new place and your approach is way different.
And then people get mad at you for leaving because you weren't paid, because you might have gotten paid.
You might have gotten paid. But you go off and your approach from the start is different, because what successful people do is they learn from failures. Failures are such a huge part of somebody being successful. So they would consider that 3 years a failure. I didn't get what I wanted. And now let me figure out, okay, what was missing? What is it that I have to do because I can't get that paycheck? And that's how it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So we're going to go into this final break. I have one question for you. Are we cooking or are we eating?
We're snacking.
We're snacking. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, we're eating.
It's a little different. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll head to a break. When we come back, we're going to find out what Barry Thompson is eating. Up next on One on One.
Watch live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. 93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on.
Morning thunderstorms will give way to partly sunny skies and a hot afternoon with a high of 94. South winds could gust over 25 at times. We'll see another slight chance of thunderstorms tonight with a low of 75 and more heat on the way for your Friday. Highs tomorrow around 96. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Bagels & Joe is in full summer mode. They'll add cold foam to the top of any iced coffee. Plus, they now have a Joe Coffee Club. Get unlimited drip coffee for just $8.95 per month. And don't forget their delicious breakfast burritos and sandwiches. Bagels & Joe, 4 Lincoln locations.
Now through July 20th, join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $10 a month, and feel spectacular in the judgment-free zone with the most energy you've had since
kindergarten when we had daily naps.
Exactly. And in our clean and spacious clubs with tons of equipment, you'll feel confident. Like after
I've carried in all the groceries in one trip.
More like, wait, that's exactly what it feels like. Join at planetfitness.com or in club. $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry. Deal ends July 20th. See club for details.
Registration is now open for all fall sports leagues through Lincoln Parks and Rec. Adult volleyball, kickball, softball, and youth NFL flag football. Competitive and recreational leagues are available, so whether you're an athlete, a former athlete, or a wannabe athlete, there's a league for you. Plus, check out their paid opportunities for officials and referees. Contact Lincoln Parks and Rec to learn more, or head to teamsideline.com/LincolnNE before July 24th to register your team. That's teamsideline.com/LincolnNE.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is an equal opportunity employer.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Morning thunderstorms will give way to partly sunny skies and a hot afternoon with a high of 94. South winds could gust over 25 at times. We'll see another slight chance of thunderstorms tonight with a low of 75 and more heat on the way for your Friday. Highs tomorrow around 96. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You know you want that smoky, tangy, sweet, and spicy sauced and tossed Wingstop. But you just brought a haul of groceries home from the store. It's cool. No one expects you to shop and cook in the same day. So let the flavor experts at Wingstop hook you up with mouth-watering wings, crispy tenders and thighs, fries and sides delivered to your door. You can always cook tomorrow. That's why the fridge was invented. Get it delivered at wingstop.com.
Order your Wingstop online at 28th and Superior, 50th and O Street, and 29th and Pine Lake.
You're listening to One on One with DP, sponsored by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Final segment of One on One right here on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. I am not DP. DP is out in North Carolina. I am Rico, joined by one Barry Thompson on the line. This hour brought to you by Ambition Electric, the Barry Thompson Hour. But One on One is sponsored by Mary Ellen's. Head out to South Lincoln and get yourself a delicious plate of food. Speaking of food, Barry Thompson, what are we eating today?
Well, I kind of said before the break, we're kind of snacking. In Korean and Japanese cuisines, especially Korean cuisine, you don't really have like a main course, an appetizer, that type of thing. It's really an amalgamation of a bunch of kind of smallish type dishes, and sometimes they're called banchans. Japanese have a similar style, and this dish is a Japanese dish. And it goes along the theme. The last 3 times, I think I've been talking about stuff that is kind of cool and refreshing. So we did watermelon juice, right, and kind of things we did before you guys had that event 4th of July weekend, and then I did the soba noodles, cold soba noodles, which are there. This is a dish called, and I'm give you a funny name now.
Okay.
I'm gonna spell it because I can't pronounce it. Sunomono. Sunomono, I think is how you pronounce it.
Okay.
But a real simple dish. It just involves cucumbers. So it's about 4 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, a couple tablespoons of sugar, a little teaspoon of salt, a little bit of soy sauce, and that is in effect the dressing. And just stir everything up until the salt and the sugars dissolve. Some people don't like seaweed. There's a type of seaweed called wakame. If you don't like it, don't put it in. But I like it. You can find it in stores, and you take about a tablespoon of wakame or not. Then you take the skinny cucumbers. You want a cucumber that doesn't have a lot of seeds in it. You can find these Persian cucumbers in a lot of places, or a smallish English cucumber, that long one in the plastic wrap that's there. And you just want to slice those real thin. If you have a mandolin, watch your fingers, but you can slice those really thin. And then you take about a teaspoon of salt and you put it over top of that, the cucumbers, and you want to massage as much salt into this thing. Let it sit for a few minutes. And what will happen is the moisture will leach out, and it makes the cucumbers kind of crispy, which is really good, right? You're talking about cool and crisp. And that's really it. The cucumbers go into that little dressing that you made. You can throw in the wakame if you want, and you just stir it around, and it's a very refreshing, addictive type dish. Different toppings, imitation crab on, different things, but you can just have it with just the cucumbers if you want. That little dressing, just the cucumbers, and you chill it a little bit, and it's one of my favorite kind of things. I'm about to haul off and make a big bowl of it when we get off the air here.
Well, Barry, that sounds like a very refreshing snack, and I don't want to keep you from your sunomono, so I will allow you to get over there and make it for yourself and start snacking. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for all the insight on quarterback battles and everything like that.
No problem. And I'll post a picture on the Twitter feed after if I'm patient enough.
Perfect. Even if it's like 2 of them, it'll work.
All right. Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you, Barry. You have a good one. Thank you. That was Barry Thompson, Fairfax Football Academy, joining us, talking QB battles, talking Lamar Jackson, talking Sunomono as he is snacking on some cucumber today. That is going to be it for One on One, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and going on this ride for the first 3 hours of my marathon today on the air. But guess what? You're not getting rid of me. I'm here for another 3 hours. The captain with myself and Jake Bakoven is going to come in and keep me company. We're going to hit on all kinds of things, so just stick around and join us in the conversation. Up next, on 93.7 The Ticket, The Captain, with Jake Bakoven and myself, Rico.